Computer. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Success Builders podcast. Today, I've got Mason Jongejan with us, and he's all the way from Australia, a university student about to graduate. And he actually approached me, and he wants to ask a series of questions, for his studies and the survey that he's doing. So I'm going to hand over to Mason, and he can tell us a bit about himself and what he's going to ask me.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Ricardo. Thanks for having me. Actually, you
Pleasure.
did really well with the pronunciation of the last name there, so I'm impressed.
Cool.
Um, yeah, so just a little bit about myself. I'm currently in my last 2 weeks of my neuroscience degree at UWA, so University of Western Australia. Um, and yeah, my story kind of goes back 3 years. So, when I finished school, I found myself in a pretty bad place mentally, physically. Didn't have a goal to work towards. I wasn't happy with what I was doing every day. I was wasting a lot of time, sort of stuck in like a cycle of like destructive habits, pretty much. Um, and I pretty much realized that like it wasn't making me happy. So I actually decided to go traveling to kind of switch it up. I was just like, if I go traveling, my goal would be to just sort of revitalize my like sort of will to live. Really, like that's what it was. Um, and so, halfway through my 7 month trip in Europe, I came across Andrew Huberman, and so he's a neuroscientist at Stanford, and he's now got the Huberman Lab podcast as well, which is very popular now. Um, but that's kind of like the first thing that introduced me to neuroscience. And at this point, I was feeling pretty bad myself. So when I started seeing his stuff, he talks about, science-based tools to optimize your own life and to get better at the things that you want. And this kind of opened a whole new world for me where I realized that, in neuroscience, it's like um, power is like knowledge is power, really. So like if you can understand like why you feel certain things and how your thoughts work and the mechanisms that are behind things like, motivation and concentration, and like whatever it is, I realized that you can actually positively influence those things by just knowing how it works and by doing certain things based on what it is, right? So that's what really drew me to neuroscience. Um, and then when I finished my trip, so after 7 months, I came back to Perth, and I changed my degree completely. So I was actually doing engineering before, and I changed to neuroscience. And I'm so happy that I did because I've been learning about it, and I feel like the things that I'm learning is actually applicable in my own life, which is the thing that I really like about it. Um, so yeah, and then like I said, I'm getting close to the end now of my uni journey, and I pretty much realized that um, the things that I learned in, and it's not necessarily at uni as well, but I've also been very fascinated with learning about neuroscience outside of uni. So I've been spending a lot of time trying to learn as much as I can, and talking to other entrepreneurs as well about their own brain and like what they found in their entrepreneurial journey. Um, and I pretty much realized that like I feel like people would actually benefit from some sort of course that helps them use science-based tools to pretty much optimize their own sort of brain and like mental well-being, especially when it comes to starting a business. Um, so my goal now is to talk to as many entrepreneurs as I can. So I've got my goals to hit 100. So I'm at about 30 now. So trying to get to 100 entrepreneurs, and I'm asking them a set of questions that I've got written down here as well, which is pretty much for me to figure out what are common problems or what are common obstacles that people face when in their own entrepreneurial journey. And, what was the thing that if they had figured it out sooner, that really could have helped them succeed in their business quicker. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now. So I'm trying to figure out what people struggle with now, but and then really, where can we help people from a neuroscience perspective? How could you help people to reach their goals more successfully in their business? So yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from. But I'd love to hear a little bit about what you do as well, actually, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, sure. That was an excellent introduction. And to be honest, I actually did something similar to you when I was at university. So I started off doing engineering myself. I was
Right.
going to go down the path of mechanical engineering because my father was a fitter and turner, and he always had aspirations for me being an engineer. But
Mm.
when I got into it, well, actually, I messed around a little bit. The first year I was sort of playing games in the LAN with my friends at uni, so um, I wasn't taking it that seriously, and
Yeah.
yeah, that didn't land up sort of making the first year of engineering. So I switched over to do a Bachelor of Commerce, which I'm more suited to in terms of business. I don't have a mathematical mind and all that to do all the applied maths and all that kind of stuff that come with it. I've got a business math mind, yeah, and accounting, but not so much that
Mm.
those really in-depth maths subjects. So yeah, the best thing I did was actually switch to do a Bachelor of Commerce, and I really enjoyed the law aspect. After that, I went to start off my own IT company with my younger brother and a friend.
Mm.
It was IT support, and also an internet service provider where we did hosting services. Back then, we even had dial-ups and ISDN and ADSL. We had about 500 clients across those different types of services. We didn't have fiber back
Wow.
then. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, and we sold that business in about 2011. I had basically moved on to my father's business because he suffered sort of a near heart attack. We had to have a stent put in. He needed some help with the family business, so I moved over. It was in the manufacturing industry. So it was basically I was importing, exporting pneumatic tools and descaling equipment, uh, key account manager to ship chandlers and sugar mills. It was very interesting
Mm.
and really broadened my horizon. In that, I also set up a sister company which was focused on heat treatment with furnaces and hardening of steel components, helping out with the family property portfolio. So I've been into real estate. I'm a qualified estate agent. Um, Dabbled a little
Wow.
bit in commercial real estate. Um, then in 2016, South Africa was starting to get really dangerous. That's where I'm from originally.
Mm.
And my wife wanted to move to New Zealand because her brother was here. And that's what I did. Packed up everything, sold, you know, the real estate that we had built up. In South African rands, it wasn't actually that much. Um, and when you convert into New Zealand dollars, so I basically came over, with not that much behind me. Um, Luckily, in 2015, I did invest into Bitcoin. Had some,
Nice. That's a good one.
yeah. So I had some euros that I was scared was going to devalue because of Brexit. So I decided to put it all into Bitcoin, and that was a good decision. And Bitcoin was
Yeah.
like $300, and you know what it is now. Okay,
Yeah.
so and since then did a few fintech projects as well in the crypto space. But my main work when I landed in New Zealand, I went into vehicle sales. I was a Nissan and Holden vehicle sales consultant and systems administrator. And then I went to do vehicle finance at a call center. So interesting enough, with neuroscience, this might be of interest to you because when I was young, I think I was 12 or 13, my grandfather died in our home, and I was very close to him, and I developed a speech problem. You're probably not
Mm.
detecting it now, but in my teens, I couldn't
Mm.
even say my name. I used to have to spell out my name, Ricardo, because I could not say my name, right?
Wow.
Now I can say that my name is Ricardo, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so that might be interesting from a neuroscience point of view. So
Mm.
I struggled with that even into my early 20s. And then when I met my wife, she accepted me for who I was, and that gave me some confidence in terms of that, hey, I'm actually worthy. I'm actually, you know, not just this person that's got a disability.
Mm.
And through that, and through knowing that now I have to build a life for us, I took things more seriously in terms of getting out there. And when I was in the vehicle sales industry and the finance side of things, which was actually call center oriented, I used to have callbacks I used to have to do of 100 calls a day. And I
Mm.
quickly became more fluent and got over the speech problem. So that's might be of interest to you.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So what I'm doing now is, um, well, I haven't done vehicle sales for 3 years. I've been um, helping out a fintech startup, but unfortunately, the startup went through some issues with their development team, and I was made redundant in February. So I was researching a few other things, and I decided to get into network marketing. And I'm now with a distributorship called it's called Enagic, which we
Mm.
basically supply Kangen water ionizers, which is water with
Oh wow.
a high concentration of hydrogen and antioxidant properties. Also, um, great effects on the human brain because the hydrogen molecules are so small it can break through the blood-brain barrier and
Mm.
clears brain fog, reduces lactic acid for athletes, improves recovery and all sorts of things, plus other cancer benefits and all sorts of things. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I'm doing the Success Builders podcast to interview other business owners and sort of create an audience funnel for myself and for anything that I do now and in the future. I think having a following and having a community really is where it's at nowadays. And
Mm.
all big influencers, big brands, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, they all try and develop a social following. And then
Mm.
all the various businesses that they're involved in, basically get support from their social following, and that's what I think is where everything is trending. So that's basically me in a nutshell.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. So your main goal is that to build more of a brand with the Success Builder, or is your main goal at this point to focus on the marketing that you're a part of now?
Bit of both. So the
Yeah.
Success Builder is not going to pay the bills. It's just going to basically be a podcast that puts the focus on entrepreneurs and startups.
Yeah.
There might be ways to monetize it, but that's not the main sort of income stream for myself. So basically a
Yeah.
50-50 approach. And
Yeah.
it helps to kind of like create an audience that then I can tap into for the marketing side. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's really interesting because I mean I would say I'm relatively new to this whole like entrepreneurial sort of community even. For me yeah, it's actually I could tell you exactly when it was about 6 months ago. I had a full sort of paradigm shift that like my life really changed after that because I was fully intending on doing my master's, then going into some research thing with neuroscience, or I wasn't exactly sure, but it definitely wasn't starting a business. But I think what really changed for me was like I don't know if you've heard of Alex Hormozy.
Yes. Him and Cody Sanchez are two YouTubers that I follow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So Alex Hormozy like pretty much changed my life because like um you know I already knew that I wanted to like get myself to a level where I'm free sort of financially, ideally also free like based on location, like I can kind of go where I want, and then obviously freedom of time is like being able to do right. And when I was delving into future sort of pathways at uni, I realized that like sort of the top three pathways after neuroscience would be to either do like work in a private clinic. You either go and actually continue studying to go get into medicine, or you do research. So you've got you do a 9 to 5 in a lab, and you're just doing research on like you know whoever you work for. And I've realized that all three options really just are me trading my time for money. And it was really when I started looking at Alex Hormozy, and he talks about developing skills and investing in yourself, and then the money that you get isn't the product of your achievements, but it's you. Like you're the product of your achievements. And like he's gone through this as well. I think when he was 26 or 27, he lost all his money, and then the next year he makes twice as much money as he had, because those skills that he's learned and the things that he himself doesn't change even if you lose all your physical possessions. um so for me that's really interesting because like I pretty much realized that um really in that if you view it like that, in that situation, the only thing that's really standing between you and getting where you want to go is learning the skills that you need to have to become that person, right? So that's why it's so interesting to me, because now I'm like, okay, well, how do I, what, firstly, what skills do I need to learn? And secondly, how can I make sure that I'm learning that quickly? And this is how neuroscience relates as well, because the process of learning is neuroplasticity, so the rewiring of your brain. So how wouldn't it be nice if you could, like, if you knew exactly how to optimize the speed and the efficiency of learning? And that's just one factor as well. Like, obviously with the business, it's very important to wake up with, like, motivation and drive, and like even resilience, and like even mindset as well. This is something I realized. So like that's a science-based thing as well, like growth mindset, and how you view setbacks, and how you view things that come to you, and how you can sort of make it so that it's actually, your thoughts are actually productive for what you're trying to achieve. So that's something that I found really interesting. But I'm wondering for you, oh, actually, and I'll tell you just a side note. So in these last 30 interviews that I've done, um, the one thing that I've always ended off with one question, which is, if you look back on your entrepreneurial journey, if you had learned this one thing like sooner, what do you think is that thing that would have helped you reach your goals much quicker, or even just much better, like reach your goals easier? And 9 out of 10 say their belief system. And this is something that I didn't anticipate when I first went into it, because I was very much on the biological side, the science side. But then when you really look into it, it's like there's these people who realize that after years and years of working in their business, that there's actually some limiting belief and some limiting, yeah, like their self-image isn't quite aligned with what they're trying to achieve. So they don't really see themselves as the person who they want to become. And that self-image, and have you ever read the book Psycho Cybernetics?
No, I actually haven't. No.
Okay, so Psycho Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz,
Okay.
highly recommend. And
I'll
he
make a
goes
note of
into
that
this
one.
as well. Yeah, highly recommend. Like, it really changed my perspective on it, because really what it comes down to is people cannot achieve anything that is out of alignment with their belief system or their current belief system. So I just imagine it like a bowling alley, and there's like the two railings on the side. That's like your belief system. So you can't act outside of that. So if you, and all of this, by the way, is all learned through our childhood. So like when you're a child, you might have a presentation in front of class and it goes really poorly. Then you might label yourself to be a bad public speaker from that point onwards. And no matter how hard you try, or when you're faced in a situation that's similar, you're going to immediately think of yourself, oh, I'm a bad public speaker. Like, I'm not very good at speaking in public. And you're going to be very nervous. And probably you won't be a very good public speaker because you're so scared of it. And like, you don't think you are. And they've only recently figured out how much that actually influences people when it comes to actually achieving their goals. And this can be, public speaking, but it could also be, if you grow up and there's a lot of trauma in your childhood as well, you might grow up with a sense that your self-worth is very low. Like, you don't feel like you deserve anything.
Yeah, I
And
actually
you
had
can
the same thing.
imagine, oh, really? Yeah, that's interesting. And you can imagine that belief and that self-image and that thought over and over and over and over can actually have some really bad like influence on you and what you're trying to achieve as well. So that's one of the challenges that I've come across with when I interview these people, and I realize that it's not as much just like the science side, or although also the belief system that's also heavily backed by science, but it's not as well known, I would say, as like concentration or the mechanism of like getting sunlight in the morning. Like, that's something Huberman always talks about. Um, but I did find like it interesting, and it's actually an interesting challenge, because now I'm like, okay, well, how can you change someone's belief system so that they don't experience that ceiling? Because a lot of entrepreneurs, they get to a certain level and then they stagnate and they can't get past that point, and they don't know it, but it's actually their belief system that's got something to do with that. So how can you make sure that sort of ceiling you can break through before getting there? That's just something interesting to me. But I'm wondering, when you work on because you're sort of doing two things as well, so you must be very busy. So I'm wondering, like, how do you deal with like distractions, or like, yeah, do you feel like you get distracted easily, or you feel like you're pretty good with working through it?
I do get distracted easily, so I sort of often fall into the trap of shiny object syndrome, especially since I'm a techpreneur and I love everything
Mm.
technology. So
Yeah.
like looking at one thing and then suddenly some email pops up with some new information and some really cool concept. I can be easily distracted in that sort of thing. So I have to be honest with you that I am have not mastered the art of really getting past that. But my way of getting through it is just working really hard. Like, when my wife and kids are sleeping, I'm, on my phone
Mm.
doing research or, um,
Yeah.
you know, making plans on how to build a business. So I kind of
Yeah.
like give myself the time to explore because exploring those different things is also has its own values. Okay, it might not
Mm.
help you build, but initially when you're trying to build a foundation, you need to learn as much as possible. And
Yeah.
then that helps you to formulate all the ideas. And in fact, there are very few people that can come up with new ideas consistently. And those people are
Mm.
generally sought after. I've never had that problem. I have ideas coming out of my head left, right, and center. I've got about six different businesses I could start.
Mm.
Um, and most people can't think of those things. And that's not a problem that I've had. So
So then, how do you choose then? If you feel like you've got options, what sort of process do you go through to help decide, what you should go with?
well, okay, I'm a very big believer in that there is something greater than ourselves, and I have a faith, I have a Christian faith. And I sometimes just sort of follow the stream and just follow the doors that are opened. Okay. If something is opened
Mm.
unto me, I will walk through the door. I don't hesitate, I'll go through it. And I take the path of least resistance. Wherever there are more doors being opened is where I follow. Okay. I still
Yeah.
keep the other things as backup, but if there's no immediate doors, I won't take them. I won't try to force them. Right. So that's my personal way of doing it, is just going with the flow, and it's reduces the stress as well, and it kind of goes with what you enjoy and what you have fun doing. Like for example, this opportunity now with the network marketing, I went with the flow. I basically met this lady called Holly. She's the one that introduced me to the business. I was in a network marketing group and I saw someone post about, how he was having a hard time in life and his job's not going well and everything, and he's looking for some suggestions. And she commented and said that, he must DM her. She'll try to help him. She's been known to bring back magic into people's lives. And I was feeling at the point where, hey, I've just been entrenched and everything, from a 3-year career. I needed some magic back in my life. Let me click and follow the breadcrumbs and follow the yellow brick
Mm.
road, right? So I contacted her too. And then everything just connected and fell into place for me, right? And then from that,
Mm.
this podcast developed because I thought, hey, I need to build an audience. So then this podcast developed. And
Mm.
none of this has been too much effort. It's all just kind of flowed. And every other opportunity that I've had in the past has been the same. Um, Before we go on to another question, I just want to speak to something that you said earlier about the belief system.
Mm.
So, interesting enough, as part of our training, I did a 1 hour seminar this morning, and they were talking about belief system. And there are three pillars to success. One is believe in yourself. Two is believe in your business or product, or both, if it is a product business. And number three is don't quit before you've given yourself a chance to see results. Those are the three main pillars. So very interesting that you spoke about that.
Mm.
Okay. And even one of
Yeah.
my trainings is called paradigm shift, which you mentioned earlier about the paradigm shift. Um,
Yeah,
and
that's
uh,
interesting.
yeah, and then even then you said glass ceiling, right? This is so weird because if you go back on my Facebook post, right? Um, go back to ones before this and even to this one. And basically, I think some point I mentioned that uh, my mom, she always taught me that I can do anything I want and there's no glass ceiling. Okay.
Mm.
That was one of the things that helped me get through, all the childhood trauma and my speech problem is that even prior to that, my mom had always fostered an image that I could do anything I want if I set my mind to it.
Mm.
Obviously, it's unrealistic. I couldn't be a concert pianist because I'm really bad at piano. I mean, I
Mm.
tried the electronic keyboard and I mean, did okay, but I mean, I didn't have the natural talent for it. But
Mm.
by fostering that sort of support system from a very young age, you try new things. You aren't scared to um, level up. Where some people are scared
Yeah.
to level up, I'm not scared of
Yeah.
leveling up. I don't care if I become a millionaire or a billionaire. Uh,
Mm.
you know, money doesn't change who I am. One of the problems is people's relationship with money is very bad. Some people think that they aren't worthy of the money or they
Mm.
aren't worthy to sell an expensive product because they don't
Mm.
feel like that they're too comfortable. I mean, I've
Yeah.
sold expensive vehicles, I've sold real estate, I've sold engineering contracts worth millions, and none of it changes who I am at the end of the day. It's just the
Mm.
the thrill of the deal is actually what I enjoy. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
That's really interesting. Especially, when you talk about like fostering a certain mindset or belief like in your childhood. I actually think you can go even further and you can say, you know, everyone's got their own little voice in their head as well. And it's not just the people that you learn from in your childhood, but it's also, once you grow up, there's still that voice in the back of your head. And if you're constantly being negative, and if you're constantly saying, I can't do this, I can't do that, then like I'm not surprised that people can't get past this thing if everything they think is like bad and negative and all those things. I saw this really interesting. So his name is Dr. Peter Attia, and he went on a podcast with Chris Williamson, and a Modern Wisdom podcast, a very good podcast. And he talks about, and so Dr. Peter Attia, he's been a doctor for a long time. And he said that he always struggled with negative self-talk. So he would, whenever there was a situation where, maybe first he would try to do this thing, and even first time trying, it wouldn't go well, and he would be very negative on himself. He'd be like, "You're so like dumb for not being able to pick it up. Don't even try next time. You're so useless at everything," like all those things, right? And that made him often struggle with sort of anger management sometimes, right? So, and it pretty much what he was explaining to Chris was, when he spoke to his psychologist, the psychologist pretty much said, okay, well, if you want to change your anger, you need to change your self-talk first. And the self-talk, how do you change that? So in this situation, whenever he was in a similar situation where he found himself getting angry or talking to himself negatively, he would take out his phone and he would record or type whatever you want to do. You can either record a voice thing or you can type, and you have to write or talk like you're giving feedback to your best friend who's going through the same situation. And often this is much more positive. This is like, okay, the first time you tried it, next time you'll be much better. Like way more positive, right? And like as crazy as it sounds, so he said it took him 6 months of every single time that happened to go write it down and to try change that pathways, to change that little brain impulse that you have. And after 6 months, at age 47, his self-talk completely disappeared, the negative self-talk. So now, instead of, when you're posed with a similar situation, the baseline used to be bad, 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 bad. But now it's productive and it's growth and it's good and it's improvement. So, and I think this is very important when it comes to neuroscience as well and like psychology as well, because like it's not just like training how to be the best version. Well, I guess it's sort of related, but I really imagine it as like a baseline. Like, what's your baseline response to something happening? Because for everything that you see or happens to you, there's a biological reaction. So how can you make sure that no matter what happens to you, you can sort of still control? Like this is some sort of like it's a filter, and like you should be able to control, how you respond to things, and especially, if you want to achieve big things, like you're gonna have to learn how to do that. So that's why I just find it so interesting, and like everything you say, I really relate to a lot. So yeah, I'm really happy to be having a conversation with someone
No,
who can
likewise.
relate. Yeah.
Yeah, and in business, they uh, teach you one thing is that um, the way to basically scale uh, quickly, especially in a consulting type business or a network marketing business, to scale quickly and to have fun while you're doing it is to engage with your ideal client avatar. Okay, which the ideal
Yeah.
client avatar is somebody who has the same way of thinking as you, someone you could just talk for hours with and just be friends with, so that each day when you're building your
Mm,
business, you're actually having fun and speaking to a friend. It's not like
mm,
you're talking to someone who you don't even resonate with in any which way, and
mm.
you're talking down to them or whatever, but you're actually on the same wavelength as somebody. And I've had that on a few occasions where I've started projects with co-founders, and man, things really were just awesome. Everything just gelled. And
That's great. Yeah.
yeah, so you know, that is one of the most powerful things, actually, community, having a support from either co-founders or a tribe around you. And that's the most important thing, because if you don't have
Mm,
belief in yourself, there's the other people to, help you up. So,
yeah.
in my last post, in fact, you'll see that there's those three keys to success: the belief in yourself, belief in your product, and don't quitting. But then I also added extra to that, and one of them was being around supportive people, supportive tribe or community. Okay, that's
Yeah.
extremely important. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, if I like look at my life now, I think that's probably the one thing that I'm missing most. I feel like I'm pretty good at like self-motivating, and like I know what I want and I believe that I can seriously do it. But I think, and I guess I've been on this journey for like 6 months, so it really hasn't been a long time. But I think, for me to get to that next level, I know that I need to start surrounding myself with other people who've got the same aspirations. Like, I love my friends that I have now. I'm only 22, and none of them really think that the way that I think, or like talk about what I like talking about. Yeah, so I do. And this is a very common thing. Like, if you look at anyone successful, they'll recommend find people who are like you, who've got the same desires, so that you can kind of help each other reach that level. Um, I'm wondering, when you think about your work, do you ever go through times where you feel like, do you always feel motivated and driven to put in the work, or is there times where you feel a little bit like, oh, I don't really want to do that today?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not always motivated. I'm human, of course. I'm
Yeah.
not a morning person. I never have been. I used to be a mobile DJ in my teens,
Ah.
so my body is wired to
Mm,
stay up late and sleep in.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Fair.
and it's been like that a long time. And also having four kids, two of which are toddlers under 5, and sometimes wake up at night and then you just hammered the next morning and you just
Mm,
don't feel like doing anything. But it's okay. I mean, um, I am a big proponent of not working to death. I mean, my father worked a lot. He worked all the time. He was always at his work. Even on a Saturday, he was working. But he
mm,
loved what he did, which is great. But at the same time, I want to kind of strike a work-life balance where I'm
mm,
present at home. I'm working. I'm in my home office right now. My wife and kids are in the next room. I can hear the kids' TV going.
mm,
And in between meetings, I'll go out the door, hug my kids, or
mm.
it's the lifestyle that I'm wanting to have.
Yeah.
Um, and it doesn't matter if I have a slow morning. I don't beat myself up over it, because that's part of the freedom lifestyle, right? It's like
Yeah.
if you're a little bit tired and you just feel like, oh, I'm going to sleep until 9 a.m. today. All the kids don't allow it half the time, but I mean, I mean, yeah, um, it's okay, because I'm up until 11 anyway. It's the more of a night owl. My brain starts firing after 4 p.m. And then
Yeah.
so luckily we scheduled the meeting for this time, because this is when I'm at best.
Yeah.
If it was 10 a.m. in the morning, I'd be like, you know.
it's 12:30 p.m. here, and I've been up for 6 hours. I actually
Okay.
just came back from a surf. But I'm actually quite different to that. I'm a morning person. So, when I first wake up, I feel freshest. I like doing at least like 2 or 3 hours of work like in the morning because I feel sometimes my day gets a little bit chaotic. I've got things to do. I've got other work as well. I work in a bar, which is just temporary. But I find, when I do work there, it's a barista actually. So I make
Oh,
coffees.
cool.
But I
Oh,
do,
I
I
love iced
find,
coffee with caramel shots.
yeah, I can make you a lovely coffee, the best one you've ever had.
Yeah, I think we have to meet for a coffee.
Yeah, yeah. But I find myself, when I come back from work, yeah, not as like keen to get into heavy work. So I like doing it in the morning so that at least I've got an hour or two where I've already done it. So even if the rest of the day ends up running away from me, at least I've looked back and I've done something that day to work or at least to move the business forward in some sense. Um, but I still think of like because I'm still early stages. I'm not really starting. I haven't started the business yet. I'm very much still in the market research stage. Um, so when I think about all the things I'm going to have to do, it does get quite overwhelming. So I'm wondering for you, like, have you ever used or looked at strategies to deal with overwhelm, or do you feel like usually you're also pretty good at that as well?
Well, it can get overwhelming, especially the most overwhelming thing is when my thought process keeps on being interrupted, especially with having young kids and they're crying or they're upset about something and or they didn't sleep well throughout the night, they've been sick, and my mind is constantly being bombarded with
Mm,
different things, and I'm unable to finish a certain train of thought, and I may be on a roll thinking of some creative idea, but then life happens. That's also one of the drawbacks of working at home. So that I
mm,
do struggle a little bit with, but I'm also able to compartmentalize. I'm old enough now that I'm in my 40s, so I'm old enough now that kind of like I know myself well enough to basically compartmentalize and just focus and uh, even though I get stressed out over things, I don't let it ruin my life,
yeah,
because there's more important things. I mean, my kids and my wife are the most important things in my life right now. So that grounds me in a way. So, but I haven't actually really looked into strategies. I mean, I do hone in and focus with like um, motivational uh, sort of music and videos. Like I subscribe to Team Fearless on YouTube, which is
mm,
like all this
mm.
motivational self-talk type things like the
Yeah,
athletes use. So that's something that I sometimes would put on my ear pods and just listen to that when I'm trying to compartmentalize and I feel a bit overwhelmed.
yeah,
Um, yeah. And or I just decide, hey, I'm just going to go for a walk with the wife and kids. That
yeah,
helps to basically, break that cycle of, being overwhelmed.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, having a support system right there with you in terms of your family is huge. Um, yeah, so but would definitely be interested in hearing about strategies. I haven't looked formally into anything, no.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I guess like, overwhelm, sort of anxiety and stress is quite similar, but do you ever feel like you experience like a lot of stress or not so much?
I can say I experience anxiety every day.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, well, if I mean, as you know, I had the speech problem, and every day I wake up with anxiety. Like speaking
Mm,
to people, and it used to scare me to pick up the phone. It used to scare me
mm,
um, to introduce myself. I mean, every day I feel anxiety of some sort. Biggest anxiety I have is over, you know, the health and well-being of my family.
mm. Yeah.
If we have enough finances, if we'll have enough finances a year from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now, those are the things that kind of worry me the most. And then health-wise as well,
Mm,
um, you know, um, especially like things like drinking water. Are my family drinking the right water? Is it
yeah.
contaminated from the source, from through the household pipes, through the municipal water system? things like that. So, there's
Mm,
always anxiety that I kind of have every single day. But I've lived with anxiety since the days of my speech problem. So I've kind of
mm.
learned to manage it, and it's not really something that uh, holds me back, but it's still there.
Yeah, so you wouldn't say that it ever becomes like debilitating?
Well, when my first two children were born, um, almost like 14 years ago, uh, both were born premature, um, and
Mm,
both had complications at birth. That was probably the most overwhelmed time, and I did go through depression at that time, and I had to go
mm,
onto medication for about 3 months just to sort of get out of that. That was the only time that I actually went through anything like that.
yeah.
Um, and I could say was debilitating, where I literally didn't want to get up, sort of thing.
Mm,
I just kind of lay there and just didn't have the energy to even face life. Uh,
yeah.
but since then, I haven't had that again, and I've been through a lot of other stuff since then.
Mm,
But I haven't had that level of debilitation since.
yeah. And you sound like you're very busy. Obviously, running a business, you've got a full family as well. Do you still have time to do your own physical exercise and maintain that on a daily basis or not?
Yeah, well, what I've been doing is myself and my wife, we like to walk regularly. We try to walk every day around the neighborhood, and
Okay.
that's the main exercise that we do is walking.
Mm, yeah.
Um, I do want to get into something else. Time has been a bit limiting,
Yeah.
um, but and especially with the kids being so demanding at this age. But I think
Mm,
as I start going into kindergarten from next year, it'll be a lot easier, and I definitely want to start up some other physical activity. I used to do martial arts
yeah.
before, in my younger years, and ballroom dancing and that sort of thing. Um, yeah, I think some sort of um, martial arts training would be
Mm,
interesting,
yeah.
and even some home gym. We do
Yeah.
have some gym equipment here. I must try use more often. But for now,
Mm,
I try to walk 10,000 steps a day, which 10,000 is what
yeah.
most even movie stars are trying to do 10,000 plus steps
Mm,
every day.
yeah.
Basically, use my wife's watch as a counter because I don't really like to wear a watch. I've got one, but I don't like wearing it. So
Sorry.
I just see how many steps she's done, and I was walking next to her, so it must be the same.
Yeah, yeah. It must be the same. Except her strides are probably half the size of yours.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, no, the reason I ask is because, like for my own journey, it's actually interesting. I feel like I was always the person who would go to the gym for 2 or 3 weeks and then wouldn't see results. I've got two really close friends who've been gymming for years and years, and they've always tried to drag me to the gym. And I would always just be like, after 3 weeks, I wouldn't see the results, and then I would just quit. And I feel like, obviously, you've got the mental, you quitting and not keeping going is even just a mental thing to remind you that actually, yeah, you aren't good enough, and you aren't seeing any results. But interestingly enough, when I changed that, so that was the first thing I changed when it came to the holiday. So we went traveling, and my parents actually live in the Netherlands. So when we were staying with them, my girlfriend and I, we just decided to go to the gym every day at the same time. So 10 a.m. every single day. And purely just for my own physical like well-being. My mental well-being was down, but my physical also was definitely worse than it had been over the last my whole life, really. Like that was probably the yeah largest I'd been in my lifetime. And for me, like the physical exercise was a massive domino that really started the chain of just like trying to become a better version of myself. Where do I really want to go in my life? Like what do I want to achieve? And realizing that with consistent action and consistent effort, you might not see results over 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, a year even, but you best believe that after a year, you're going to see some results, right? And I realized this, and it really teaches you the delayed gratification, which I think is heavily aligned with business as well. Like a lot of that is also dependent on putting in a lot of work initially and not necessarily seeing results straight away. Um, yeah, so that's what, and physical exercise has got so many benefits as well when it comes to your own brain. Like, um, I don't know if you've heard of Andy Elliott before. He's a pretty okay, yeah, he's a very sort of energetic, be the best version of yourself. Like he started off as a salesman and now he teaches people how to like pretty much just take control of their life and like become successful in how they want. So maybe even similar to what you do. Um, but yeah, it's just interesting because like for me, I really feel like physical exercise and getting that sorted was the first thing that like changed me so much. Like I can't even describe it. Um, but yeah, Ricardo, I'd like to ask you as well. So if you imagine like your goal now, like can you tell me what your goal is for like the next 10 years? Have you thought about that?
Well, sometimes, to be honest, I'm just trying to put one foot in front of the other. And
Yeah.
because I have the mindset of following the stream and following the flow, I kind of like my future to be a mystery.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
it's quite exciting that way, you know.
Yeah.
As you know, I've done many varied things from
Mm,
industrial to real estate to fintech to car sales. And I kind of like the journey of experiencing something new in life all the time. So I don't want to
mm,
say in 10 years' time, I'm going to be the best this or the best that, because my path might lead me through a door that are totally unexpected and I didn't know.
mm.
So it's hard to
Yeah.
say. But the main core things that I do wish for the future is one, to have location freedom, to be able to work from anywhere. That's a non-negotiable. I want to be home with my
Mm,
family. I want to be present.
yeah.
I don't want to be like my
Mm,
father who was at his factory all week
mm,
and I never saw him until 7 p.m. And on Saturdays. I want my kids to be able to see me. I might be busy, but they can see me. They can see me through my glass office door. They can see me when I come out for toilet break or for lunch break. I'm
mm,
there, right? That is a non-negotiable for me, is location freedom. Secondly, it's financial freedom and legacy wealth. I want to, be able to leave wealth for my children,
mm,
and not that they can just live a normal life. Like one of my stories on Facebook posted that apparently something like 80% of Americans think that fast food is a luxury now. Okay.
mm,
And I mean, fast food is not even something good for you and it's not even nourishing, but it's so
mm,
expensive that even 80% of people feel that they can't even get access to that. Okay.
mm.
So imagine the healthy food, which is more expensive. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't want my family to be a statistic in terms of,
Yeah.
not being able to have access to the best things in life. So I want my family to have the best things in life. That is the
Yeah.
future goal. So location freedom, financial freedom. How that looks in actual reality is going to be fluid and changing, depends on which doors are open to me.
Yeah.
But those are the pillars that I basically want, those main ones. And then health as well. Like
Mm,
my mom's cousin passed away recently from cancer at age 58.
mm,
And uh, we've had other family members also pass away from cancer and
mm,
heart attack and that sort of thing. Health is becoming more prevalent in my mind and thinking that, we need to drink healthy, we need to eat healthy. I've cut out a lot of stuff. I used to be drinking only fizzy drinks. I only drink water now, and then iced tea.
mm.
I like my iced tea. Okay, it's
Yeah.
one of my vices.
Sue me. Yeah.
Yeah, just one iced tea a day is not going to kill anybody, I don't
Yeah.
think. And yeah, and also healthy foods, not sort of binging on chocolates and sweets. Just eating good stuff and
Yeah.
staying away from McDonald's and that sort of thing. So health is
Mm,
important. So freedom of health, freedom of location, freedom of wealth as well. time, it's a nice concept to have freedom of time, but it is limited. And I know being a business owner and a family man is crazy. So you can
Mm.
optimize your time, but yeah, time's always going to be limiting. So I don't want to
Yeah.
make that a be all and end all. The other three things are
Mm.
important, and then my time will be put into making those other things happen. So my time is
Yeah.
going to be spent either which way. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's basically, yeah, that's it.
I think that's a really good framework. I mean, I agree with you. I feel like my goals are the exact same. So, um, I guess like, do you feel like there's anything that's holding you back from reaching there? Do you feel like you're already well on your way? Um, do you feel like can you think of anything that might be preventing you from getting to that next level that you want to get to?
Yeah, well, so what's preventing me from getting there is community. So although I've got the professional community behind me, through the mentorship and the training and the supportive community on the back end side, I don't have the community on the customer facing side, where basically, building followers, building people that are, building the brand with me,
Mm.
testimonials, things like that, because it's so new still. So
Mm.
basically, that is where um, th that's why I'm doing this podcast. Is like through
Mm.
every interview, through every new person that I meet, like yourself, I'm growing my community, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've really so you're the third awesome person that I've met so far. I've got another one tomorrow and
Hmm.
another one next week. So if each week I build two or three people that I
Yeah.
interview and really connect with, then they become my tribe, you know.
Yeah.
Not my business support tribe in the background, because that's a different tribe, and that's
Mm.
they're already in the business and they won't contribute to um, any sort of retail activity, but they are there supporting me professionally and teaching me and training me, and I have so much training that like what I posted about today was from one of the weekly webinars, and
Mm.
just the inner work stuff that we learn about is just fantastic and next level from like
Yeah.
six-figure and seven-figure entrepreneurs who are already established in the business. It's huge. So the limiting factor is just building my public-facing tribe, and that's what I'm in the process of doing.
Mm. And how is that gonna get you to your goal? Like, can you describe that?
Yeah, sure. So it's basically you build brand momentum, you build a personal brand, and you become someone that other people identify as um, having social proof. So social proof meaning you've got enough
Mm.
followers for people to believe in what you are selling.
What you do? Yeah.
Yeah, in what you do, because people
Mm.
unfortunately like to follow what other people are doing. You know, very few
Yeah.
people like, I think
Yeah.
you have the same mindset, would jump into something new and
Mm.
blaze a trail, be the first one to blaze a new trail.
Yeah.
Usually people like to follow what's already established and see, oh, there's 15,000 people following this. It must be good,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of like what, is needed now in the social landscape, which is like leaders like Elon Musk have really been good at that with Twitter. His Twitter following is massive.
Mm.
That is where it's kind of at. Even the Kardashians, they can sell pretty much anything because they have a good social following. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
so even Alex Hormozi said something like that. In one of his videos, he said that the reason why he's doing these YouTube videos and that is to build a personal brand so that he can then go and approach uh, big name companies and big name people in high positions because they want what he has. They want his network. So it'll
yeah.
open doors for him. They will go and
Yeah.
open a door because they see he's got a network of 200,000 people or however many it is.
Hmm.
And it just opens doors for him. So, That's why he's
Yeah.
doing that, not for the money, because he's already got the money from his other businesses, right?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
to open doors, right?
Yeah. No, it's very smart. Yeah. I definitely agree. Well, I wish you all the best.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and I guess like okay, I'll ask this one last question now. So if you reflect back on your yeah, your entire journey, um, do you feel like there's anything at all that could have helped you succeed sooner or like better?
I suppose there's a lot of things. Um, and I mean, every step in life you're doing with uh, the fog of war in front of you. So if you play video games or
Yeah.
strategy games, there's something called the fog of war, which is when you play a strategy game, you expose new areas of the map as you build your base or as you explore, right? So there's always the fog of war, there's always the unknown in front of you, and you can only see within the
Mm,
parameters that you have, right? So I think probably the best thing I would go back and tell my past self would be to be careful who I associate with, you know, to associate not associate
mm,
with people that are bringing me down, not associate with
mm,
people that are negative, not associate with people that have dubious values, you know.
mm,
And that's something that I'm starting to implement now. And I wouldn't get into business with anyone with dubious values or who basically are not on my level, who think they're up here and they talk down to me and like as if, I'm not their equal, that they're better than me. I wouldn't do business with those people, you know.
yeah.
Um, Only with people who I can have a fluid conversation like yourself. And
Mm,
even though you're 22 and I'm in my 40s, it doesn't seem that way. There's no age gap because we are
yeah,
talking
yeah,
on the
yeah,
same level. I'm not talking down to you, you're not talking down to me.
yeah.
And that's where it's at. I'm not going to associate with myself with any heroes up here where I follow them
Mm,
because they are technical geniuses or because they are this and that, and then they'll end up being only in it for themselves. That is something that I
mm,
wish I had, let myself know about sooner. Is that rather build with someone who has passion and who has the same vision as you, than build with someone who is high above you and you're just a number to them. Okay,
yeah,
that's
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah. Thanks for the advice. Yeah, I appreciate that. I think I'll definitely take that to heart and remember that one. I think that's definitely good. You always need to be careful like that. But yeah, Ricardo, man, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate like all
no,
your
it's a
insights,
pleasure.
man. Like,
Me
oh
too.
yeah. Yeah, no, thanks so much for taking the time out of your day. You're a busy man. So I'm sure I'll let you get to back to work probably, back to the family.
Thank you. I appreciate
Um,
it.
but yeah, I mean, you've got my Facebook as well. So yeah, if you
We'll definitely be
ever
in
have
touch.
any questions, like
Yeah,
we'll
all the
keep in
time.
touch. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing, the outcome of your research and
yeah.
uh, what you'll end up learning from your 100 interviews that you're planning on doing. I think you'll probably hit
Yeah.
100 interviews before I do,
Hopefully,
because you're already at
hopefully.
30.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, that's the way, and I do encourage you to keep on that path and follow the
yeah.
doors that open to you. Every one of those meetings will open a door that you don't expect.
Mm,
And
yeah.
that's the key. A lot of times we sit at home and hide behind ourselves, hide behind the screen, and don't put ourselves out there and don't meet new people and never get exposed to new doorways. And
Yeah.
that is the biggest limiting thing is not actually um, going out there and seeing past the fog of war. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, Ricardo, look after yourself, look
Thanks,
after
you
your
too.
family. Hopefully we talk soon as well.
Okay, thank you
All
so
the
much.
best all the best for the podcast as well.
Thanks. Yeah. Okay.
All
Cheers.
right,
Bye.
Ricardo. Thanks so much.